aggressively comes over her right hand.
Oh, that hand does hit the face on the follow-through, though.
She does.
Caitlyn Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA. We have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen.
When you're losing, everything feels very heavy.
Caitlyn Clark just put up the greatest single-game performance in women's basketball history. 45 points, 10 assists. The first 40-10 game the WNBA has ever seen. LeBron James, the most famous basketball player on the planet, shouted her out within minutes. The basketball world was celebrating. And then, less than 24 hours later, Brianna Stewart extended her arm during a shot challenge, and her hand made full documented contact with the side of Caitlyn Clark's face. Clark hit the floor. Clark looked at the referee standing right there. The referee looked back and called absolutely nothing. No foul, no flagrant review, no technical, no fine, nothing. Stewart walked away clean. Meanwhile, Clark was already sitting on her sixth technical foul of the 2026 season, charged $1,000, and sitting just 2 reactions away from an automatic 1-game suspension. Now here is the part that should stop you cold. In 2021, LeBron James accidentally caught Isaiah Stewart in the face during a free throw rebound. He got suspended. Stewart got suspended for chasing him. The NBA moved immediately. So why, in 2026, did the WNBA watch Brianna Stewart put her hand on Caitlyn Clark's face and decide that nobody needed to be accountable for anything? That is the question nobody in the league's front office seems to want to answer. And we are going to walk through every single piece of it right now. Before we get into this, drop one word in the comments. Just one. Tell me whether you think what happened to Clark on July 19th was a missed call or something more deliberate than that. One word. I want to see what you think before you hear everything we are about to cover, because by the end of this video, that one word might change completely.
Isn't bullying, let's look at the NBA. Bullying on the court is a thing that has happened before.
It is a rite of passage, and it is a sign of respect. And for someone who doesn't know the game, for you to use certain words, we've got to be careful with our words. She's not getting beaten. She's not being bullied. No one's pulling her hair. No one's telling her she can't come out and play with them. That is a sign of respect. If I go at you because you're supposed to be a superstar, you're supposed to take it. Ask LeBron. Ask Michael Jordan. Ask the greats. It's a sign of respect. No one's bullying.
And when she gets asked, that's
The Indiana Fever walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse on a back-to-back. They had played the night before, the night Clark dropped 45 points and 10 assists in the most historically dominant individual performance the WNBA had ever recorded. The New York Liberty had been sitting since Sunday, rested, prepared, and coming into the game with a team that included Brianna Stewart, a 4-time WNBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP, and one of the most decorated players in the league's history. 17,000 people packed the arena. A national television audience was tuned in. The stage was as big as women's basketball gets in the regular season, and the energy in that building reflected exactly that. Clark was fresh off history. The crowd knew it, the Liberty knew it, and within 90 seconds, the entire tone of the night was set in the worst possible way. Clark ran into a hard screen set by John Jones. Legal screen, brutal contact. Clark reacted, and the referee immediately hit her with a technical foul. Her 6th of the 2026 season, $1,000 fine, 2 technicals away from an automatic 1-game suspension, 90 seconds into the game, for reacting to running full speed into a legal screen. That was the opening act. Later in the game, Brianna Stewart challenged a Clark shot near the basket. Replays showed Stewart's arm extending, her hand making clear contact with the side of Clark's face during the challenge. Clark went down. Clark looked at the nearest referee. The referee was right there, standing close enough to see every frame of contact that every camera in the building caught in high definition. The referee looked back at Clark and called nothing. No foul, no flagrant review, no technical on Stewart. No one reached for a whistle. Stewart turned and walked away as if nothing had happened, because as far as the officiating crew was concerned, nothing had. Clark finished the game. The Fever won 108-88. Clark, who had just been hit in the face with 0 consequence, while simultaneously sitting 6 technicals deep in a season where she is 2 reactions away from sitting out a game entirely, did not speak to reporters after the win. She walked off the court, let the scoreboard say everything, and left the building. Here is what makes that silence so loud. Clark has never been the kind of player who hides from a microphone. She has been one of the most accessible, engaging, and honest athletes the WNBA has ever produced. When she does not talk, it is because she has already calculated that no words she says will be handled fairly. So she said nothing. and the scoreboard said 108-88, and the basketball world said everything else. The Fever head coach Stephanie White, when asked about the officiating after the game, said she was trying not to get fined. She said they keep asking for consistency. She left it at that. That is a coach who has watched enough of this season to know that speaking directly about what is happening to her star player will cost her money and earn her nothing. So she kept it short, kept it careful, and let the question hang in the air right where everyone could see it. What happened on July 19th was not subtle. It was not a close call that reasonable people could disagree about. It was documented on replay, confirmed by multiple camera angles, and visible to anyone in the building with functioning eyes. And the officiating crew decided it was worth exactly 0 response. That is where this story starts, and it only gets more complicated from there. Let's stay on that technical foul for a moment because it deserves more than a footnote. 90 seconds into a nationally televised game, Caitlyn Clark ran into a legal screen. Legal, meaning the contact was permitted by the rules of basketball. The screen was set properly. Clark ran into it hard because Clark plays hard, and hard contact during a legal screen is not a penalty on anyone. It is just basketball. Clark reacted. Players react to physical contact all the time. It is one of the most human, involuntary responses in all of sports. You get hit, you respond. Clark's response earned her a technical foul, her 6th of the season, and a $1,000 charge against her. More critically, it moved her to 6 technicals in a season where 16 is the threshold for an automatic 1-game suspension. But the WNBA's structure means that a player who accumulates technicals at Clark's current rate is always sitting close to a penalty that has nothing to do with a deliberate foul or an actual act of aggression. Clark is being charged for reacting, not for starting contact, not for initiating aggression, for responding to things that are being done to her. And the pattern has been consistent enough across the 2026 season that it is no longer possible to call it coincidence or bad luck or just the way officiating goes sometimes. When you can document play after play where Clark absorbs contact without a call, and then see her charged with technicals for her reactions to that contact, you are not looking at random variance in officiating quality. You are looking at a system that is penalizing Clark for existing at the level she exists at. Reporters asked Clark's coach about the officiating. White said Clark always seems to initiate the contact. That was the official explanation. Clark initiated the contact with a legally set screen by running into it. That is the standard being applied to the most popular player in the history of the league. And when you hold that standard up against what happened 20 minutes later in the same game, when Brianna Stewart extended her arm and put her hand on Clark's face during a shot challenge, and the referee called nothing, the contrast becomes something that is genuinely difficult to explain with any neutral framing. 6 technicals charged to Clark for reacting. 0 technicals charged to Stewart for making contact with Clark's face during a challenged shot. $1,000 pulled from Clark's pocket. $0 pulled from Stewart's. Clark sitting 2 reactions away from an automatic suspension. Stewart sitting at the post-game press conference with a clean stat line and no accountability attached to her name anywhere in the official record. The fans watching at home did the math immediately. One post that circulated after the game read simply, "Clark gets charged for reacting to contact, while Stewart gets nothing for making contact." That is the WNBA's officiating standard in one sentence. It is hard to argue with the arithmetic. When the numbers are that clean, the pattern becomes the only story worth telling. And yet the league had said nothing by the time the final buzzer sounded. No review announced. No statement issued. No indication that anyone in the front office had watched the same replay that every fan, analyst, and broadcaster had already seen a dozen times on their phones. Silence from the top. And in that silence, the basketball world filled in every blank with exactly the kind of speculation a league that wants to grow its audience cannot afford to invite. 24 hours before Brianna Stewart put her hand on Clark's face, LeBron James was on Instagram celebrating the greatest game in women's basketball history. Clark had just dropped 45 points and 10 assists, the first 40-10 performance the WNBA had ever recorded, and LeBron, who had been watching, posted immediately. The Clark report picked it up within minutes. LeBron James shouts out Caitlyn Clark's record-breaking performance. And the basketball world, already buzzing from the magnitude of what Clark had just done, got louder. This is not a new relationship. LeBron has been one of Clark's most consistent and vocal supporters since she entered the league. When Clark was injured last season and missed time, LeBron reached out personally. He asked if there was anyone he could connect her with, anyone who could help with her recovery. Clark talked about it publicly, describing LeBron as someone who understands the microscope she is under, someone who just wants to be there for her. She called him her idol. She described meeting him at a Lakers game as a crazy moment, noting that he went out of his way to wish her luck on the season, and that he genuinely follows and appreciates the game at every level. LeBron also posted what became one of the most shared Clark-related social media moments of the season when she returned from injury. The CC effect, welcome back. Short, direct, and from the most followed athlete in American basketball. When that account is paying attention to what is happening in the WNBA, it brings an audience that the league could never manufacture on its own. The reach that LeBron's engagement generates for Clark's story is genuinely unprecedented in the context of women's basketball. So when LeBron had just finished celebrating Clark's 45-point historic night, and then the very next evening Brianna Stewart slapped Clark in the face on a shot challenge with 0 call, while Clark was already sitting on 6 technical fouls, the basketball world did not just notice the officiating failure in isolation. They noticed it in the context of LeBron's celebration being followed immediately by the league's most visible officiating breakdown of the season. Reports circulated quickly about LeBron's reaction, with fans speculating across social platforms about what the most visible NBA supporter of Clark's career would say when he watched what happened on July 19th. The framing was everywhere. LeBron just celebrated the greatest game in WNBA history. Then he watched this. The implication did not need to be spelled out. It was already written in the sequence of events across 2 consecutive nights. There's also a broader point here that the timing of LeBron's involvement makes impossible to ignore. When the most famous basketball player in the world is publicly and consistently aligned with a WNBA player's career, every officiating failure involving that player gets amplified beyond the normal reach of women's basketball coverage. It reaches NBA fans, casual sports fans, people who do not watch the WNBA regularly, but follow LeBron's engagement with the sport. Every time something happens to Clark that LeBron has commented on, the audience for that story multiplies immediately. The league either does not understand that dynamic or has decided not to care about it. Either answer creates a problem that does not get smaller over time. And the answer that came the night after LeBron celebrated Clark's history was Brianna Stewart's hand on Clark's face, and a referee who decided he did not need to blow his whistle. That was the WNBA's response to the moment LeBron had just handed them for free. 2 days before Breanna Stewart slapped Caitlyn Clark in the face with 0 call, LeBron James was standing on stage at Fanatics Fest 2026 in New York City, laughing about the most famous face hit incident in recent NBA memory. The 2021 game where LeBron caught Isaiah Stewart in the face while boxing out on a free throw rebound. Stewart's face bled. Stewart lost all composure. Stewart began chasing LeBron around the court, requiring multiple teammates, coaches, and officials to physically intervene and keep the situation from escalating beyond what it already was. LeBron described it at Fanatics Fest with the kind of self-aware humor only someone who survived the absurdity of that moment could pull off. He talked about getting his red card, about the big man chasing him all over the court, about the chaos that followed what started as routine free throw positioning. The crowd loved it. The moment was lighthearted in hindsight, the kind of story that becomes legendary over time, precisely because of how genuinely unhinged the original incident looked in real time. But underneath the laughter at Fanatics Fest was a fact that became extremely relevant less than 48 hours later. LeBron received a 1-game suspension for the original hit, even though every credible review of the play confirmed it was accidental. Contact during a free throw box out, arm movement as part of normal basketball positioning, unintentional connection with Stewart's face. Accidental. And LeBron got suspended for it. Isaiah Stewart received a 2-game suspension for his reaction, for chasing LeBron around the court after the initial contact. 2 games for the reaction, 1 game for the accidental hit. The NBA looked at that situation and said, regardless of intent, regardless of whether the initial contact was deliberate, there are consequences when someone's face gets hit during a basketball game. That is the standard the league enforced. Not a perfect standard, not a nuanced one, but a clear one. You hit someone in the face, intentionally or not, something happens. A review occurs. Accountability is established. Suspensions are handed out. The message from the NBA in 2021 was that face contact during a basketball game is serious enough to warrant a response from the league. Then, 2 days after LeBron laughed about that exact incident at Fanatics Fest, Brianna Stewart extended her arm during a Caitlyn Clark shot challenge, and her hand made documented contact with the side of Clark's face. Clear on replay, confirmed by multiple camera angles, visible to everyone in the building and everyone watching at home. And the WNBA's officiating crew decided to call nothing. No review, no flagrant assessment, no suspension conversation, no league statement. Nothing. The same name connecting both stories made the comparison impossible to ignore. Isaiah Stewart chased LeBron in 2021 and got 2 games. Breanna Stewart hit Clark in the face in 2026 and got a clean box scoreline. Fans pointed this out immediately and repeatedly, noting that the shared last name was almost too on the nose to be real. The NBA set a standard in 2021. The WNBA had an opportunity to meet that standard in 2026. The referees standing right there chose not to. And the league, as of the final buzzer, had said nothing to suggest that the standard applied to what happened in Indianapolis on a Saturday night. LeBron's Fanatics Fest story had been a crowd moment, a laugh, a look back at something wild that had already been processed and resolved. 2 days later, his most celebrated WNBA player took a hand to the face, and the league that is supposed to protect her decided it did not happen. The universe has a particularly uncomfortable sense of irony sometimes. Here is the part of this story that lands the hardest if you have been following the Caitlyn Clark narrative since the beginning of the 2026 season. During the same Liberty game on July 19th, Brianna Stewart was seen on the sideline having a full, animated argument with Liberty head coach Chris DiMarco. Yelling, gesturing, arms moving. Energy that was visible and documented and not subtle in any way. If that description sounds familiar, it is because you have heard it applied to Caitlyn Clark before. Specifically, it was applied to Clark during a Portland game earlier in the season when Clark and head coach Stephanie White had a visible sideline disagreement. That moment became a 3-week media event. Analysts across the sports media landscape called Clark uncoachable. They called her a diva. They wrote columns about culture disruption, about whether Clark's star power had grown larger than her willingness to operate within a team structure, about whether White could actually manage Clark's personality. The narrative built and built, with new voices adding to it every day, treating a single sideline disagreement as evidence of a fundamental character flaw. 3 weeks of coverage, multiple columns, hot takes from analysts who had clearly decided that one sideline exchange between a player and a coach was the lens through which Clark's entire character needed to be evaluated. Uncoachable, a problem, a diva. Those were the words that circulated, and they circulated for weeks. Brianna Stewart had a visible, animated sideline argument with her coach on national television on July 19th. The exact same energy, the exact same type of moment. And the response from the mainstream sports media that had spent 3 weeks dissecting Clark's every courtside facial expression was total, complete, absolute silence. No columns, no hot takes, no 3-week narrative about whether Stewart's relationship with her coaching staff was healthy. Not a single analyst who had called Clark a diva chose to apply that same word to Stewart's sideline exchange. One fan on social media put it cleanly. Anyone going to say Stewie isn't a team player and is a pain in the ass? The answer was silence. Not a measured response, not a considered counterargument, not even an acknowledgement that the parallel existed. Just nothing from the same voices that had been loudest about Clark's sideline moment months earlier. This is where the double standard in the Clark story expands beyond officiating and into the broader media ecosystem that covers the league. The officiating double standard is documented in replay and in the technical foul ledger. The media double standard is documented in column inches and broadcast minutes, in what gets covered extensively and what gets ignored completely. And on July 19th, both double standards operated simultaneously in the same game, during the same broadcast, watched by the same national audience. Clark's sideline moment became a character indictment. Stewart's sideline moment became invisible. Clark's reaction to a legal screen became a technical foul. Stewart's hand to Clark's face became a non-event. In one game on one Saturday night, you could document both the officiating pattern and the media pattern side by side in real time. That is not a coincidence. That is a system operating exactly as it has been set up to operate. And the question the basketball world is sitting with is simple. Who built this system, and why does it only point in one direction? Here is the detail in this story that nobody planned and everybody noticed. because it is the kind of thing that could only happen in 2026 when Caitlyn Clark and LeBron James are the two most talked about names in basketball simultaneously. During Saturday's game, a WNBA broadcaster called a Clark travel violation a LeBron layup. An actual broadcast reference to LeBron James, made on WNBA Air during a Clark game, describing Clark's travel by comparing it to the notorious history of uncalled LeBron travel violations that have been a running debate in NBA circles for years. The crowd reaction was not reported, but the internet reaction was immediate. Fans clipped it, shared it, captioned it, and turned it into exactly the kind of viral moment that keeps a story alive for days beyond the original event. The broadcaster had jokes. The irony was so complete it almost felt scripted. Clark gets called for a travel that gets compared on the broadcast to LeBron's uncalled travels. And then, in the same game, Clark gets hit in the face, and the call is as invisible as every LeBron travel combined. The fan who put those two things together in one post captured something real. The broadcast was making LeBron jokes during a Clark game, while LeBron was 24 hours removed from celebrating Clark's greatest performance. And then Stewart hit Clark in the face, and the WNBA officiating crew decided it was worth nothing, echoing every uncalled LeBron travel in the most uncomfortable possible way. You could not write that sequence more perfectly if you tried. Social media picked up the broader pattern immediately after the game. One fan posted that Clark gets called for a travel compared to LeBron, while Stewart slaps her in the face and gets nothing. Another noted that the WNBA announcers are connecting Clark to LeBron in the broadcast, while the WNBA officiating is connecting Clark to the player least likely to get a call. The commentary was pointed, creative, and relentless, and it kept the story cycling through timelines for the entire weekend. There was also fan commentary drawing direct lines from the officiating conversation to a broader point about how the league handles its most valuable asset. Multiple posts referenced the cash cow framing that analysts had used throughout the season. The idea that Clark represents a generational opportunity for the WNBA to grow its audience, its revenue, and its cultural footprint in the way the NBA grew around Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan. The argument being made by fans and analysts alike was that you do not allow your generational talent to absorb unpenalized physical punishment while simultaneously charging her for reacting to contact, and expect that the audience watching is going to remain loyal to the league's credibility as a professional sports organization. The broadcast joke landed because it was funny. The irony completed itself because it was real. And the fan response was loud because the people watching understood that what they were seeing was not just bad officiating on one Saturday night. It was a pattern that had been building all season, now fully visible in one game, on national television, documented on replay, and discussed by everyone from LeBron's Instagram followers to WNBA analysts trying very carefully not to get fined for saying what they actually thought. Step back from the July 19th game for a moment and look at the full season picture, because the technical foul count sitting at 6 is not just a number. It is a countdown. Clark is 2 reactions away from triggering an automatic one-game suspension. 2. In a season where she is the league's most watched player, its biggest ticket draw, its most significant revenue generator, and the athlete whose presence in any arena drives attendance, numbers that the WNBA has not seen in its entire history. The league's officiating structure has built a situation where Clark could be forced to sit out a game for reacting to contact that, by the evidence of July 19th, is not being called against the players initiating it. That asymmetry is not just unfair. It is structurally dangerous for a league that needs Clark on the court to justify the growth narrative it has been selling to sponsors, broadcasters, and a national audience for the past 2 seasons. When Alyssa Thomas was fined after an earlier incident, analysts noted it as progress, a signal that the league was capable of reviewing situations and attaching consequences. But the July 19th game produced no such signal. Stewart's hand to Clark's face generated no review, no fine, no league statement. The question that analysts, fans, and commentators have been raising throughout the 2026 season is not complicated. If Clark is the most important player in the league's history, the player whose impact on attendance, viewership, and sponsorship revenue is documented and measurable, why is the officiating structure allowing her to sit at 6 technical fouls in a system where 2 more means a suspension, while the players making contact with her face are sitting at 0 accountability? Some voices in the basketball world have framed this as a growing pain story. The WNBA's version of what the NBA went through with Jordan and the Pistons in the late 80s, a period where the league had to eventually decide that allowing its biggest star to be physically targeted without consequence was damaging the product. The NBA made a decision. The rules changed. Jordan stopped absorbing unpenalized contact. The league grew. That is the historical parallel being invoked when analysts talk about what needs to happen with Clark. Others have been more direct, pointing out that the pattern of documented physical contact on Clark without calls, combined with technicals charged to Clark for her reactions to that contact, is not something that can be explained away as random officiating variance. The data across the season is too consistent. The replays are too clear. The contrast between what Clark gets charged for and what the players around her get away with is too visible on too many occasions to be attributed to anything other than a systemic problem that the league has not chosen to address. What happens to the WNBA's growth story if Clark misses a game on an automatic suspension earned by reacting to contact that has never been called against the players initiating it? What happens to the ticket sales, the viewership numbers, the national broadcast audience that is there specifically because Clark is playing? Those are the questions the league's front office needs to be answering right now, because the technical foul counter sitting at 6 with 2 remaining before an automatic suspension is not a hypothetical. It is a live situation with real consequences attached to it. And if the answer from the league continues to be silence, the basketball world, from LeBron's Instagram to every fan who watched the July 19th replay, will continue filling in the blanks. They are already doing it. They have been doing it all season. And every time a new play gets added to the ledger without a response from the league, the narrative gets harder to manage and the audience gets louder about what they think the silence means. Here is where everything lands. Caitlyn Clark dropped the greatest individual performance in WNBA history on July 18th. 45 points, 10 assists, history. LeBron celebrated it immediately. 24 hours later, she walked into her home arena, got her 6th technical foul 90 seconds in for reacting to a legal screen, took a hand to the face from Brianna Stewart with 0 call, won by 20 points anyway, and said nothing to reporters afterward. She let the scoreboard talk, but the scoreboard cannot fix a technical foul count sitting at 6. Cannot fix a league where Clark gets charged for reacting, while Stewart walks away from face contact with a clean stat line. Cannot fix the 2-game countdown to an automatic suspension that Clark has done nothing to deserve. And it cannot fix the silence from the front office that keeps telling the basketball world everything it needs to know about how this league values its most important player. In 2021, LeBron got suspended for accidentally hitting someone in the face. In 2026, Stewart hit Clark in the face and got nothing. That is the WNBA's standard written in 2 sentences. The basketball world sees it. LeBron sees it. And now you do too. So tell me in the comments, is this officiating or is this something else entirely?